This presentation will be examining support for the Canadian mission in Afghanistan. Canada's military role in Afghanistan is a polarizing political issue. Despite anti-war protests, the mission proceeded for approximately 10 years. In December of 2011, Canada announced the end of combat operations. Ideally, a country's decision to go to war is based on popular support. Our intention is to find out not only who in Canada supports the mission, but more importantly, why. We will draw upon the 2011 Canadian electoral study and incorporate the following statistical techniques: Cronbach and standardized alpha, univariate summary statistics, chi-square tests, tau B and tau C, and ANOVA's F value. Canada prides itself of being a global leader in peacekeeping initiatives. Dobbin argues, however, that Canada is now becoming increasingly militarized and that it is abandoning its traditional peacekeeping role. In order to assess trends relating to support for the military, we will be focusing specifically on Canada's role in Afghanistan. We will measure support for the Canadian mission in Afghanistan using three factors: support for government spending on defense, belief that it is a good thing Canadian troops are fighting in Afghanistan, and level of confidence in the armed forces. The first question in our index is, do you think the government should spend more or less on defense? The second question is, Canadian troops are fighting in Afghanistan. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And our third and last question is, please indicate how much confidence you have in the armed forces. The alpha if item deleted for all of our questions are significantly below the Cronbach's alpha of 0.70 and the standardized alpha of 0.70, signifying these questions contribute valuably to the Cronbach's alpha surpassing the 0.60 mark of acceptable reliability. The original frequency distribution was recoded to low, medium, and high support for the mission in Afghanistan. The mean is 2.04 and the standard deviation of 0.78 shows there is a relatively high deviation from the mean. The skew of negative 0.07 shows the values are slightly more concentrated on the higher end, and the kurtosis of negative 1.40 is evidence of a relatively flat distribution. The most frequently occurring value and the midpoint of responses were both medium support for the mission in Afghanistan.
Hypothesis 1 is that Canadians on the right of the political ideology spectrum are more likely to support the mission in Afghanistan. Islam argues that domestic politics and international politics are deeply intertwined, and that conservatism is at the basis of a realist ideology in international relations. Hypothesis 2 is that Canadians whose financial situation worsened in the last year are less likely to support the mission in Afghanistan. The cost of the war in Afghanistan as of 2008 was over $7 billion. Win et al. Observed that taxpayers fund war not only directly, but also indirectly through lost investment for socially useful programs. Hypothesis 3 is that religious Canadians are more likely to support the war in Afghanistan. According to Shaw et al., religion allows people to be certain about their moral principles, and greater moral certainty leads to greater moral license to support warfare. The first cross-tabulation shows support for the mission in Afghanistan by political ideology. The p-value is 0.00, indicating that observed differences in the sample are unlikely to be due to chance. The tau b value is 0.43, indicating an extremely strong relationship. The f value is 0.00, indicating that observed mean differences in support for the Canadian mission are unlikely to be due to chance. An analysis of variance reveals that individuals on the right and center of the political spectrum have markedly higher means than those on the left. The second cross-tabulation shows support for the mission in Afghanistan by change in financial situation over the past year. I would like to point out that the N of 34 shows that the data was drawn from a very small sample. Nonetheless, the relationship is statistically significant and extremely strong. The third cross-tabulation shows support for the mission in Afghanistan by religiosity. The relationship is statistically significant, and the tau c of 0.27 indicates a strong relationship. In conclusion, statistical significance was achieved for all three hypotheses, and we were able to reject the null hypothesis in all three cases. The key finding is that ideology is the strongest indicator of support for the mission in Afghanistan. While over 50% of leftists opposed the mission, over 50% of rightists supported the mission. Future research should focus on examining which religions in particular are more likely to determine support for the mission in Afghanistan. An analysis of different religions will prove especially useful in diverse communities. Also, future research should draw from a larger sample of the population and examine which segments of the population were most affected by the increased military spending.